Ding 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 dum dum bum 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 bum
You're a fucking nut. You know I'm putting this on YouTube, eh?
It's okay.
Hi, Rob here. Continuing my action, in this little lesson what we're going to be examining is, it's going to be a bit of a special project. Going to be helping out a guy by the name of Vince, who recently was attacked and beaten by the OPP in Bracebridge, Ontario, because he was exercising his common law right to travel, and the police officers who attacked him, they rely on their ignorance in order to justify their continuing actions. We're going to have a little phone call with a guy by the name of Inspector Ed Medved, and he is the inspector for the Bracebridge detachment. You can talk to him yourself at 705-645-2211. I suggest you do that and ask him the same types of questions that I'm going to be asking him. What really scared me about all this, essentially the people who are trying to follow the free man path, they are in effect merely exercising political rights. This is a political movement. And these police, they told my buddy Vince that they intended to nip this in the bud. So where did the OPP get a mandate allowing them to nip in the bud political movements that question the way they exercise their authority? The guy's traveling down the road, minding his own business. A peace officer forces him to stop and then starts demanding identification and proof that he has these certain things which the peace officer believes he must have because of the Highway Traffic Act. Now, in the absence of the Highway Traffic Act, his actions would clearly be lawful. He would clearly be merely exercising a right, and no one would have the right to interfere with it. But now, because of this Highway Traffic Act, the peace officers are pulling people over, forcing them, and trying to ensure that they're in compliance with the Act, in that they have identification, they have licensing, that the vehicle is registered, and that they have insurance. The problem is this: in the absence of the Act, clearly he would have the right to do that. But now, because of this Act, the cop thinks he no longer has the right to do what he was doing. Acts and statutes which have the intent or the effect of affecting any previously existing right must do so clearly, specifically, and unequivocally. There is nothing in the Highway Traffic Act that meets that standard and removes the previously existing right to travel, and therefore it must still exist. So why is it when people exercise these rights, the peace officers come and essentially commit extortion, mischief, and theft, as well as assault if you start questioning them? Why? They point to the Highway Traffic Act. But what section of that act removes clearly, specifically, and unequivocally the previously existing right? There is nothing in there. You know what else I don't like? Here is a copy of the summons that he was given by the cop, or issued by the cop. See right there? Therefore, you are commanded in Her Majesty's name to appear before the Ontario Court of Justice. Because these peace officers make an oath to the Queen and they are compelled to accept her commands, they think everybody is. They operate upon a presumption that you are obliged to accept the commands of Her Majesty. Elizabeth, an old lady who lives in a castle in Birmingham, or in Windsor. The simple fact is, if he has the power to command us in her name, then she must have the power to command us directly. So why don't we ask her? If she agrees that she has no power to command us and that we are not obliged to accept her commands, then clearly the people who try to command another in her name have no authority to do so. Does this woman have the power to command us? I say she doesn't. I certainly know for a fact that she has no power to command me. So if she doesn't have the power to command me, then how can someone else claim the power to command me in her name? It's a ludicrous presumption that they operate upon. And the moment you question it, their entire power to command you, to judge you, to fine you, disappears. It's like Alice in Wonderland. There's more that concerns me. Vince is a pretty cool guy, I thought. And this is the attitude that is being displayed by the peace officers. Now, when Vince was arrested, he saw that his glasses were in one piece and that they were not harmed. When he got them, they looked like this. The metal part had been bent right back, and someone had taken it, folded his glasses, and broke this piece off right here. This was just an immature act of maliciousness on someone's part who works for the OPP. Now, we have no evidence it happened like this except for his testimony. We can't prove it, of course, and they knew this. That's why they do it, because they can get away with it. But look at that. Tell me that's not just insanely childish and immature. And these are what these OPP officers, some of them anyways, are doing merely because we wish to exercise our lawful rights. Is this acceptable in Canada? Is this acceptable to the commissioner of the OPP? Is this acceptable to Inspector Ed Medved, the inspector in charge of the Bracebridge detachment? Is this what your cops do when no one's looking? Oh, I can have fun here. Now, one of these charges, this is where it all starts to unravel. He's charged with failure to apply for a permit on becoming an owner. Now, apply means to beg, plead, petition, implore, entreat, or request. Nobody is obliged to beg in a common law jurisdiction. No one is ever obliged to apply. So why would it say that, according to the Highway Traffic Act, Section 11.2, that when you become an owner, you must apply for a permit? He's got the cart before the horse. It's by applying for the permit that you become the owner of a motor vehicle. Prior to that, all he was the owner of an automobile, and that automobile was not a motor vehicle. So this is where this officer's gross negligence comes into play. And gross negligence, in my book, that's equal to fraud. His name's Darrin Thompson, and he works out of the Bracebridge or OPP office. Is he claiming that we as Canadians have an obligation to beg for permission in order, merely because we are the owner of an automobile? Is he claiming that, and in order to get a permit, you have to register your automobile? Now, to register your automobile requires you to submit an application for the registration. So this right here, this charge, can only hold force if we are obliged to beg because we own something, or it is that applying for the registration which gives them the authority to call it a motor vehicle and then hit them with all these other ones under the Highway Traffic Act. Now, I know not all peace officers are bad. It's a tough job. They do their best. I'm actually a fairly big supporter of peace officers. I do have good respect for them.